to actually thrive in my business, I had to also push myself to thrive in these other areas of life as well. And instead of just focusing on one thing, focusing on everything to complete this entire package, because not only would my business grow, but my life would be so much more fulfilled, and I'd have so much more joy, and I'd be able to give so much more to the people around me.
Welcome to the Raquel Show. This show is for entrepreneurs who want to play bigger in business and in life. And today I have a very special guest who actually was a guest coach in our Play Bigger Mastermind. He is the master when it comes to getting things done without the burnout. He coaches thousands of agents. He's a top agent himself. He's a mindset and performance coach who loves helping people increase productivity. Welcome to the show, Lewi Gault.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. How are you?
I am so good, and I'm so excited to have this conversation because how many of us need more time? And I truly believe out of any currency, time is the most valuable asset that you could ever have. So let's dive right into it. Why do you feel teaching entrepreneurs productivity is important in today's world?
Well, it's funny. Ed Milet is one of my mentors, and one of the things that he always says is you're best equipped to help the person you used to be. And this is where my entire journey came from. And the reason I'm so passionate about this stuff is because I didn't understand how to do this when I first got into real estate and being an entrepreneur. I didn't understand what this really looked like and what it entailed. And we were talking off camera about entrepreneurship is so glamorous and everyone wants to do it. We see it on social media and when it gets down to it, it is rough. It is a really hard line to walk. And when I got into it, when I got into real estate, I started seeing returns on my income. My income was expanding, which was great, but everything else was depleting. The time I was spending with my family, how much I was taking care of myself physically, spiritually, all these things were decreasing, but the income was going up. And I fell into this illusion where, well, if the income's going up, that's all that matters because I'm providing for my family. I'm doing all these things. But it got to a point where I woke up one night and had a complete panic attack, like about losing connection with my kids, all this stuff. So it was only at that point where I realized like, oh, I need to figure out how to get all my stuff together and actually figure out and learn how to grow and scale a business, but at the same time, be completely present and productive in every other aspect of my life. And I've gone on that journey now for 4 to 5 years now. And it's just got to a point where I talk about it a lot. And then other realtors that I knew started asking me questions. And then it went from there. So I feel like it's one of these things where, everyone deals with it. Not a lot of people want to talk about it because it can bring up some kind of issues that you have to deal with. But I think it's a very, very vital conversation that we need to be having more in our industry, specifically in real estate, but in entrepreneurship for sure.
In general. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And before we get into tactics, why do you think entrepreneurs fail when it comes to time management?
Honestly, I think we have fallen into the trap of hustle culture and all these different things that we see online. I think we fall into the trap of looking on social media at different entrepreneurs that we follow, and everything's always rosy and everything, it looks like they're up at 5 a.m. and they're crushing all day and they go to bed at midnight and they're going to the beach and they're doing all these, and they're just like, okay, I just need to chase this. And I think we fall into the trap of that's what we have to do as a default instead of building a business that can support your life. So I think it's a trap that we all fall into. I certainly fell into it when I first started getting into this space for sure.
Yeah, they always say that bigger is not always better. Better is always better, right?
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
is not always better. It's like what
No.
you do with the time. So let's get into the tactics. What are some of the top strategies for staying focused that you see or that you
Mhm.
teach?
Yeah, it's interesting. We talked about it on your mastermind a little bit, that for me, like the more I dive into like focus, the more I've realized that it's really tied into your self-worth and really your journey of where you are and where you want to go. And for me, when I talk to agents and when I work with agents who can't seem to get it all together, they're distracted, they have so many things going on, and they just can't pull it together and focus. It's because they literally don't know what they're doing. Not in terms of they don't know how to operate in the real estate business, but they don't know where they're trying to get to and where they're at. And we talk about this 3 points. It's like the pit, the peak, and then the path. And you have to figure out like where you're at right now. And I always tell people, and I use this analogy, that if you get in a car and you plug in a destination on your GPS,
Mm-hmm.
the car has to know where you're at to give you any kind of direction to start moving. So we can all set goals and we can all build dreams. We can all say, I want to make 100K. I want to do this. I want to do that. But unless you know where you're at right now, there is no action you can take to start getting there. And because of that, people are focused on the wrong things. We're focused on these big dreams and goals that we set at the start of the year. And by this time in February, most people have fallen off because they don't know which action steps to take, because they don't know where they started from. So I think focus really has more to do with knowing what the path is that you're on and knowing the action steps you have to start taking next to get from where you're at to where you want to go. And I think that's a big thing. If you're just dreaming, focus is almost irrelevant. Just focusing on a dream is irrelevant unless you really have the steps to achieve it.
Oh my gosh, I want to take that a step further because you coach thousands of agents. You're in front of thousands of agents. Your network's really big. Sometimes we see that people actually have a goal, they have action steps, they have a plan, but they still don't take action. What do you think causes that? Like they
I
don't
think
make the
there's,
phone calls or they don't post, right? Like you could teach a class on social media or we could
yeah,
teach a class on productivity, but they still
yeah.
don't take action.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. And I think there's a few things. I think one of them is analysis paralysis. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people think far too much about making things perfect before they take the action. And it's we always say imperfect action trumps no action at all.
Mhm.
So it's like a lot of people just can't seem to just get out the door without making sure they have the exact right suit and tie and shoes on and stuff. I think that's one point of it. I think another point of it is imposter syndrome. And a
Mm.
lot of people struggle with that. I certainly, I'm not going to say I used to because I still wake up some days and I have it. But I think a lot of people struggle with that, especially in real estate, right? It's like the market's shifting right now. But a couple of years ago, when the market was like, if you couldn't sell a house, like, come on, something was wrong with you. It's like we were all making hand over fist, just tons of cash. And when you've come from a place where that wasn't really the case, maybe you've come from a kind of poor upbringing or a working class town or different things, and you start making money and you start making of something of yourself, or even if you can see the possibility of you making something of yourself, this thing kicks in, this story in your head,
Mhm.
because we all operate out of frames. And it's the frames of the stories of our past, whether it's how you were brought up, how your family treated you, if you were brought up in a religious background, whatever it is, you have frames that you operate out of, whether you know it or not. And that can sometimes trip us up from taking action because we say, okay, who am I to make money? Who am I to start becoming wealthy? Who am I to be successful? And these stories are really challenging. And it's a pretty deep topic, to be
Yeah.
honest. But the majority of people that I work with one on one, once we drill down, it actually really does come from there. Probably 8 out of 10 times is this part of you that is just stopping you from moving forward because you don't think you're worth it. And it's a really challenging thing.
Yeah, which goes back to how we started the conversation, and it's like the self-worth
Hmm.
conversation. And I couldn't agree with you more because I've had a mindset coach. I still have one today. When you're trying to reach another level that you've never, and it's so uncomfortable, it's like just shifting the perspective, shifting the frame, like you said, makes such a big difference because it can be tied to some childhood stuff or the first thing, which I think is really, really interesting of that perfect action. So what advice would you give to people that are listening that are those people that it's like, hey, I just have to have things perfect, or who am I? Like, what's one advice that you would give them?
Yeah. And it's very easy just to say take action. But I think really a lot of people have to start. The first thing I get people to do when I start working with them when they can't figure out how to take action is something as simplistic as just like a routine, like a morning routine or something in your day where we can just get you moving. It doesn't have to be a huge, big, long checklist of morning routine, but it's okay. Let's get you up in the morning and let's do a half-hour workout and then journal for 10 minutes and then move on to your day or something. Like we have to get the cogs turning to get your body and primed and ready and your mind ready to actually start to take action. Because once you can physically start to take action in your body, for me, that's where everything else stems from. So I think that's one part, like building some kind of structure into your morning. I'm not saying you have to get up at 5 a.m. or whatever, but something, even if it's just, okay, I wake up and get the kids ready for school. I make all the breakfast. Once I've dropped them off for school, once I come back, I'll take 10 minutes just to do a meditation. I'll take 10 minutes to journal, and then I'll get to what I'm doing because that can really prime you to start moving. So I think that's one part of it that works for me. If I don't hit my routines, and my wife will tell you, if I'm off my routine, I'm a nightmare. I'm an absolute nightmare. I do not do well at all. So I think routines are a massive part in creating momentum for sure. And then the other part as well is just you have to start being able to get ruthlessly honest with yourself. I think a lot of us aren't great at doing that. And it all stems back to that whole conversation of focus, of imposter syndrome, and all that stuff. But we really have to like truly look at ourselves and give an honest perspective of where we're at. And if we're going to be okay with that, and it's okay, listen, here's where I am right now. I know what it's going to take to do that. I need to make my calls for prospecting, or I need to make social media content, or I need to do whatever. Why am I not doing that? Again, most of the time it runs into the fact that I don't want people to see me do this, or I'm going to feel like a imposter when I'm doing this. And a lot of the times we just have to be ruthlessly honest with ourselves and ruthlessly honest with the people that we're around and just go for it. So it's a really tough one. It's a lot of individuality, but
Right.
it's if your goals and your dreams aren't big enough, then you're never going to take action anyway. And I think you have to find your why.
100%. The why that's going to make you cry, right? Not the why that
Ooh,
you
that's
that
good.
that people think you should have. It's what's going to truly make you cry and be motivated. And or it's almost like some people are motivated by pain and some people are motivated by pleasure. So it really
Mhm.
depends. And I agree with you that it's individual, right? Of why people may not take action. But there's like
Mhm.
some common themes. So let's talk about tools and apps. What tools and apps would you recommend for people to increase their productivity, or some of the best tools that you use or apps that you use today?
Yeah, gosh, there's a lot of apps.
There
I
is, right?
I
But I
tend to
always love
test.
it when I hear it from somebody that actually uses them.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually doing a series right now that I'm recording about going back to basics with Apple apps. So if you're an Apple user, because like I've used Notion, I've used Trello, I've used you name it, I've used it for productivity. And I was thinking to myself, we have these iPhones, if you're an Apple user, if you're not,
Mhm.
sorry, but I'm sure you have the same kind of thing built into your Android phones. But we have notes, we have reminders, we have calendar inside of Apple. It seamlessly integrates between all your platforms, but they get overlooked for some reason as productivity tools. So I'm actually putting a series out now about like actually how powerful the reminders app on your phone or your iPad is for task management and project management. It's nuts. I feel silly that I never really looked into it before instead of going straight to like Notion and building out a massive like Notion template for what I'm doing. So there's tools like that, but honestly, before you even get to apps or get to anything, there's free tools that you can use a pen and paper with that I run all my agents through that I work with. And the first one is time tracking.
Mhm.
That is the biggest thing for me. If you're struggling with finding time in your day or finding focus or what to do, track your time, do it for 2 weeks straight, and then you'll be able to look back and say, okay, I spent 50% of my time scrolling on Instagram, or I spent 25% of my time taking breaks, or whatever it looks like. But you can do it on pen and paper every 15 minutes, just write down what you're doing, or you can use a free app like Toggle,
Mhm.
Toggl. That's a great app to use and track your time. Because once you know what it is you're doing with your time, then you can actually start to change and implement into what you have to drop and what you have to do more of. Now, from after time tracking, the next tool I would give you would be the Eisenhower matrix, which if anyone's ever heard me talk anywhere before, they know this is what I do.
The four
And
quadrants.
just if you Google it, just Google Eisenhower matrix, you'll find it. Basically, you'll take everything that you've tracked in your time and you'll put it into one of these four boxes, which are then going to be able to tell you, okay, I should be doing these tasks. I should decide when to do these tasks later. I should delegate these tasks and I should delete these tasks. So look into it. You can look, I've got a video on it on YouTube as well. And there's countless videos out there to find it. But if you could do anything, I would say track your time and then put it into the Eisenhower matrix. And then that will give you clarity around what to do, because clarity gives you simplicity and simplicity gives you action. That's what I would do.
I love it. Yeah. You talked about the reminder app on Apple. I didn't know till I started using it that it actually can remind you when you drive like at a location. So when I
Yeah.
drive out of my driveway, it actually you can set it that way where it can remind you certain things.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if this is audio or visual, but this is my
Yeah.
notes. This is my notes for the video I made on reminders. And like I have 3 pages of notes of all the things it does. So like you can build out like little CRMs on there. Like it has a Kanban view. Like it has
Yeah.
all I was like, I had no idea it could do all this stuff. You can make templates. So for realtors, if you have like checklists for open houses or checklists for pre-listings, you can make those templates and just throw them in and start checking things off, share it with your clients.
It's
I
nuts,
honestly
right?
do feel silly that this has been on my for like 10 years or however long, and I've never used it. It's so dumb.
But I think they've gotten better with it as well.
Yes.
They've had some competition, and at first, I think it was just very simple. Now
Yeah.
I think it tracks where your locations are. It tracks the time. It shares lists. It does so many different things.
Yeah, and I think that is one thing in the space that we're in when it comes to like coaches and productivity and stuff like that. There are so many apps out there that you can get caught up and almost
Mhm.
become completely unproductive by trying to be productive with
Mhm.
all these different apps. And it's like the app doesn't matter. It's the app that works for you is the one that's going to
Correct.
work. So I really like it. I like reminders, but there's countless ones out there, Todoist and Notion, all these different ones. But I think in terms of apps, um, I think having an app that manages your projects and tasks
Mhm.
is essential. I just started using Motion, not Notion, but Motion, Moition, or however you spell Motion. My grammar's
Yeah.
terrible, but Motion Calendar. And that uses AI to move your tasks into place. And it's really cool. So basically, you can build out projects and tasks inside of it. And you'll set deadlines and you can set recurring tasks and stuff. And basically, what it does is that it takes all the events in your calendar and then it will just start to slot in these tasks into place for you. And if you don't make it, it'll just take it and put it somewhere else and it'll just move it around. It's almost like having an assistant for your calendar. I've been playing with it for about a month now. It's pretty cool.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Anything I know we all get a ton of emails. Any apps, and I know that like emails can drag us down if I looked at all my inbox all day, I think I could stay on it forever. Is there anything that you have found that has helped people more efficiently with, or your students or your clients with email?
This could be a 1 hour conversation in itself. I think email is the most overrated and over analyzed and utilized thing that we do. Is it important? Yes, for sure. But I think that we put so much importance and emphasis on email that we have it open all the time for distractions. So for me, I check my email 3 times a day and that's it. And it's about 10 minutes each time. But I also have my Gmail. I just use the Gmail app. I don't have email on my phone. I don't have it on my iPad. I just have it on my computer. Now, I go a little extreme with myself. So I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just
Yeah,
saying I think you should think about, even if you open up your screen time on your phone and have a look, like how much of it is spent in email. And you and I know that really how much of your email is important? 10%,
maybe.
maybe. So for me, I have a inbox zero system that I use. I have a video of it as well on YouTube. But basically, I have different inboxes in my email. One is for responses. one is for read later, one is for waiting on responses. And I'll go through the email and just filter them. And it takes probably about 20 seconds to filter all my emails, and I archive everything else out. So all of the junk just goes out of my inbox, and I filter it all to the right inboxes. And then the next time I come back to my email in this afternoon, I'll then go through the email and actually work through it systematically. So there's a bit of a breakdown there, but
Love it.
I can give you the link for that video. It's really, I love working that way, and it's helped tremendously with a ton of people like Mike, who we know, he gets thousands of emails, and I put him into this system, and like it's changed everything. But I do think that we are way too attached to our email, and I think this specifically for real estate, I think this really talks to how we are programmed to think about how we need to work.
Yeah.
And we are in a very reactive industry. And we're the people who say to our clients, "Oh, I'm available 24/7, anytime. Hit me up, wherever." And I used to
Mhm.
be like this too. I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I used to be like that too. And I would tell them, "You can call me anytime, text me anytime." And I'm having dinner with my kids and my phone's going, and I'm now having an internal battle of, oh, I need to answer this phone instead of focusing on my family. And we're just so used to being reactive that if a client sends us an email, we have to react immediately, or we think we're going to lose the client, or we're not being efficient, or whatever that looks like. So I just think that with email, we need to really have a look at that, and how we work inside there. Um, and it
Yeah.
brings up another whole topic of setting boundaries.
Yeah.
When I work with clients, I tell them exactly how I operate and how I work. And when I first started doing this, it was scary because I was that 24/7 guy. And now I just tell them I don't answer my phone or look at email before 9 a.m. I don't answer my phone and look at email after 6 p.m. And I don't work on Sundays. And that's my boundaries that I have. We can work inside them. If that works for you, great, let's do it. If not, that's okay too. I can recommend other agents who will work 24/7 for you. And we go like that. And when
Mhm.
I start putting those boundaries in place, my production went vroom, all
Oh
the way
yeah.
up,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I had gained the respect of those clients. So I know that's another kind of topic. I'm going off on one there, but I
It's
think,
important
yeah, I think it
because it'll
just
save
falls
you
under,
minutes. Yeah.
yeah, I think it just falls under this category of we think everything is urgent. We
Yeah.
think everything is urgent and important, and it's just not.
Yeah.
And that's okay. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be. So,
I think it's really interesting that you bring that up because I think it's not talked enough. And I remember training our brokerage and our agents is if you fail to set the expectations up front, you will get the unnecessary phone calls and headaches. And the minutes will come in, extra minutes, because you fail to set the expectations up front.
yeah,
You're going to get those phone calls at 11 o'clock. You're going to get those phone calls where they expect you when you're at a kid's game to actually answer the phone,
yeah,
if you don't set those expectations. I think it's so good. One of the things that we always talk about when it comes to building a business, especially a big business, is nothing's ever done alone. So what systems do you think entrepreneurs or real estate agents should have today? And then my next question after that, my follow-up question will be about delegation.
yeah, I agree. And once I figured this out, it really helped. I read a book recently it's called Buy Back Your Time. It's
Mhm.
by Dan. Oh, I'm gonna have to remember that he's a big Canadian guy,
Okay.
tech guy. I'll remember his name as we go. Dan Martell. There we go.
Mhm.
Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. And his book is all about this topic, and it's really good. And it's about building out your systems. And I didn't have any systems in my business when I was back in the day going around the clock. And most of the agents that I meet and work with do not have systems built in. And this is a real problem, I think, because it means that you have to hustle all the time, every
Mhm.
day, 24/7. So
Mhm.
I think having a project management system, if it's reminders, if it's Notion, if it's whatever, like having something that has checklists, SOPs dialed in, like you have to really take the time to build these things out is vital. Because if you have that, and one of the best guys I've seen on the planet with this is Joshua Smith.
Mhm.
He has
Yeah.
his systems and checklists dialed in, no one I've ever met before. And honestly, he was one of the inspirations for me to be like, okay, I need to do this. But if you've never done this before as an agent or as an entrepreneur, just as you're going about your day, just start to document what it is you're doing. Okay, if I'm reaching out to clients, what is the kind of process that I go through? What are the different things I'm actually doing in bullet points? And if
Mhm.
you can just start to document what it is you actually do day to day, you'll find that you actually can build out processes. And a lot of
Mhm.
people, because systems and processes sounds like a big major thing that a lot of people are scared of, and they're like, oh, I have to bring all these people into my business, is you already have systems and processes. You just don't know what they are.
Mhm.
So I think for me, like if people can just start to document what it is they do day to day, they can figure out, okay, here's what I do. All right, I can build a checklist for that. So now it's easier for me to start attaining it. And I just think that if you can start to do this, it makes your business run a lot more efficiently and
Mhm.
easier and less stressful. So that'd be the one big thing for me. The other thing about working alone, especially in real estate, entrepreneurs in general, it's a lonely
Mhm.
game. So if you're part of a team, lean into that. If you're part of a really inclusive brokerage, lean into that too. If you have peers, whoever it is, like you have to make sure that you're able to have conversations with people about what's going on. Your mastermind's phenomenal at this. Like those people are so integrated with each other and they help each other bounce ideas off each other. And it's like, I think this is one of the most important things, especially right now in this time with the market that's shifting.
Mhm.
Like we have to be able to have a community inside the real estate where we can talk to each other and be like, hey, here's what's going on. It's okay. Or here's what's working for me. Here's what's not working. And if you don't have that, it's one of the reasons that we're having the highest attrition rate of realtors right now in the industry. They're dropping off left, right, and center
Yeah.
because they have no support. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, like I said, getting around community, understanding that it can be extremely lonely. And I can't wait to read that book, Buy Your Time Back. A lot of us need more time, and some of us will build our systems. Some of us have systems. But one of the things that I see with entrepreneurs, even real estate agents, is they have a hard time delegating, especially in the beginning. How do you delegate, or how would you teach delegation, or how to delegate effectively to some of your community or to some of your clients?
Yeah. And this goes back to tracking your time and going in and then going through the Eisenhower matrix. That will literally give you
Mm.
the blueprint of what you have to delegate. And Dan Martell says it really well in his book as well. It's what's your zone of genius? Because the things that you are good at, you enjoy and you love, but also bring back that highest ROI are the things that you should be focused on and dialed in. Everything else you have to be able to get rid of. And it is hard because we have this kind of a little bit of an ego and we
Mhm.
think, okay, no one can do it as well as I can do it and all this stuff, right? And actually, in that book, he says one of his quotes is if you delegate something and it's done to an 80%, you know, done as well as you would have done it, 80% done is 100% awesome, right?
Mhm.
And that's the way he looks at things. And I was like, that is a phenomenal quote. 80% done is 100% awesome. So we really like, we have to get out of this mindset again, this kind of hustle culture where you have to do everything.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing everything, then you suck at being a realtor, you suck at being an entrepreneur. No, if you're a true entrepreneur, you have to understand that there are parts of the business that other people can run just as well, if not better than you can. And that's the stuff you have to outsource. And it's not as crazy as most people seem. VAs are phenomenal. If you hire VAs, like they can do all the admin work.
Mhm.
Everything that like at my VA, my main VA is an absolute killer. She is the best. She takes care of probably 60% of the stuff in my business. And that stuff is the stuff I hate to do. But because now I have that time back, I can take that 40% of the stuff I love and turn it into 100% of the time. And now my business scales because the things I love doing are the biggest ROI and I can put way more time into doing it. So I think that is a huge one. Just finding VAs, TCs. If you're an agent and you're not using a transaction coordinator, what are you doing? I think I tell agents when they first get their license to do all the paperwork for the first 3 deals because you have to learn the business. You have to learn how contracts work. You have to learn how amends work. I think that's very important. But after that, outsource it, dude. What are you doing? So there's a lot that we need to delegate. And it's not just that, because VAs and TCs obviously cost money, but like automated systems like social media posting platforms and different things that can automate things that you do, like these are also delegating. So you have to just find the things that aren't working. And again, go through the time tracking, Do it for 2 weeks. Then go into the Eisenhower matrix and put all of those tasks into the right boxes. And you'll find that a huge majority of what you do can and should be delegated. And once you do that, then you can actually start to flourish because you love what you do. And if you
Yeah.
love what you do, you're going to do it better and you're going to do it longer. And then what's going to happen? Your business is going to thrive. So that's a huge part of it. But for some reason, we just can't give up power. It's
Yeah.
so crazy.
Well, here's the thing. The highest paid people in the world are specialists, not generalists.
Hmm.
Right? They know their zone of genius seat. And you can look at it through every single company. The ones that really, really thrive, they have specialists for each department, for each role. And if we take just real estate agents in general, and we take a home builder, the home builder doesn't do everything from start to finish. They're not the architect, they're not the roofer, they're not everything, but yet we're the marketer, the transaction coordinator, the CFO, the
Yeah.
social media manager, the content creator now. So it's like
Yeah.
there you start to wear so many hats, but know that there are people out there that can help you. And I love the concept of let's just get it to 80% because 80% is 100%. And I'm a big believer in that. If this person can get it to 5 and start it and do my brain dump or get me started, and because then I can reiterate it, then I'm all for it.
Yeah, for sure.
So
And if you're trying to do everything, you're just tripping over
gonna burn out.
yourself. You're
Yeah.
causing yourself problems, and your
Mhm.
clients will see that.
Yeah.
And if you go to your client and you do everything, and I go to the same client and I just specialize in finding them the perfect home, and I have a team that does everything else, and I can just focus on that, come on,
Yeah.
I'm going to blow you out of the water.
So if you look back at your journey, Louis, what's one lesson you wish you would have known sooner?
Oof, oof, man, that's a deep question. I think I wish I had known that I I believe we have four kind of main pillars in our lives. The mentorship program I went through, they were named as body, being, balance, and business, right?
Mhm.
So body, your physical body, your health, being, like who you are, who you're being, whatever that looks like. Balance, which is your family life, your friendships, your relationships, and then business. And if you look at those as four legs on a table, if one of them isn't being attended to, the rest get wobbly.
Mhm.
And we can go all in on business for a while. And if you're married with kids like I am, like you can go for a while and go hard, but eventually things are going to start getting wobbly and
Mhm.
you can't figure out why. But it's
Mhm.
because you haven't put any attention into these other legs on the table. So I think for me, I think I wish I had learned that to actually thrive in my business, I had to also push myself to thrive in these other areas of life as well. And instead of just focusing on one thing,
Mhm.
focusing on everything to complete this entire package, because not only would my business grow, but my life would be so much more fulfilled and I'd
Mhm.
have so much more joy and I'd be able to give so much more to the people around me. That's definitely probably the biggest thing I wish I had learned earlier for sure.
I love it. So what's next for Louis?
Oof, man, this year's crazy.
What are you
You-
most excited about?
Obviously, we launched our mastermind last year, which is really, really fun and it's awesome. We're putting on a big live event this year, and it's the first live event that I've ever been a part of putting on this side of it, and it's terrifying and it's also super exciting. And I'm really, really excited for that. Mike and I have a lot of things in the work that we're working together on. So honestly, like I've last year was a kind of pivot year for me. I moved into this kind of coaching role rather than being all in production. I transitioned into this coaching role, and that's when I had a lot of the imposter syndrome and stuff. But now I feel like I
You're
feel
in
like
it.
I'm in my
Mhm.
shell now, and I feel rooted, and I feel like I'm on a mission, and I
Mhm.
know what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be helping realtors specifically realize that they don't have to live a certain way. They can have
Mhm.
it all if they choose to. So really, I'm just really excited to keep putting this message out, just having conversations and yeah, being on podcasts like this, meeting cool people, chatting, and just trying to really help people change and pivot from this hustle culture to something that's way more fulfilling. And that's the kind of mission I'm on.
Well, I love all the things that you've done and all the things that you have created. You've written a book, you have an awesome YouTube channel. You got to speak in our mastermind. I'm so honored. Where can people actually connect with you to learn more?
Yeah, if you go Instagram, just Lewi Gault, same thing on YouTube, or you can go to lewigault.com. There's a bunch of stuff going on. I've got a complete time management course coming out, hopefully by the end of Q1. I
He's
should
going
know
to do
specific, yeah,
it.
somewhere around there. But that's coming out. So yeah, I also send out a weekly newsletter, which has productivity tips, time management tips every single week as well. So there's a bunch of stuff there. So if you go to louisgault.com, you can find all that stuff and just reach out if you need anything. I'm always here to chat. I love just chatting with people and helping people kind of work through this stuff.
So awesome. And as we wrap up, there's always one question that I ask every single guest on the show is what does Louis do to play bigger in business or in life?
I find out where I'm actually best suited for my purpose. And that's what last year was. That's what last year was for me. I found out not just my why, but my actual purpose of why I'm supposed to be here and why I'm in this circumstance and what I'm doing. For me, that's I'm playing bigger because I know what the stakes are now and I know what the goal is now and I know what the mission is now. And I think having those whys is just it's default now. I can't turn back. There's no option for me than to just go. So I think finding your why is so huge.
Oh my gosh, this has been such an awesome conversation. I know the audience are either listening to it or watching this on YouTube. I want to say thank you so much for your time today. I know you are very busy. I super appreciate you, and I cannot wait to keep cheering you on as you play bigger, my friend.
Thanks so much, Raquel. Great chatting with you.
Thank you.